The morning started like any other morning in the 3 years since our marriage had stopped being a marriage and started being a performance of a marriage for the benefit of people who weren't actually paying attention. I was at the kitchen counter making coffee in the French press we'd received as a wedding gift. The good stuff I bought from the local roaster 3 blocks over because even though Vanessa complained constantly about the cost, about how it was ridiculous to spend $18 on a bag of coffee beans when you could get perfectly acceptable coffee at the grocery store for $7, she drank it anyway, every morning, without comment, without acknowledgement, without ever saying thank you or noting that I was the one who got up early to make it, who ground the beans fresh every morning, who timed the steep precisely to get the perfect flavor she claimed to appreciate even as she criticized the expense. She was at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone, already dressed in expensive athleisure wear that cost more than my entire weekly grocery budget, the kind of clothes that were designed to look casual but actually required significant effort and money to pull off. Lululemon leggings, $128. Matching sports bra visible under a carefully chosen loose tank top, probably another $68. Her hair was already done in that artfully messy way that took 30 minutes and at least 3 products to achieve. Her makeup was flawless, the natural look that actually meant contouring and highlighting and perfectly applied mascara and lip gloss that cost more per ounce than the coffee beans she complained about. This was her morning routine even though it was barely 7:30 in the morning, even though she worked from home as a marketing consultant and could have rolled out of bed and worked in her pajamas if she wanted to, even though she had absolutely nowhere to be before her first client call at 10. But Vanessa needed to look perfect at all times, needed to be camera ready for the Instagram stories she posted throughout the day documenting her authentic life, morning coffee with perfect lighting, lunch arrangements that looked more like art installations than meals, afternoon me time that involved expensive spa visits or boutique shopping trips, or meeting friends at trendy restaurants. This was our routine, played out every morning with minor variations. I made coffee. She ignored me while curating her social media presence, occasionally showing me photos or posts and asking if I thought they looked good, though my opinion never actually mattered because she'd already decided what she was posting. We existed in the same physical space without really occupying the same life, without really connecting, without really being married in any meaningful sense beyond sharing an address and a last name and a mortgage payment. "I'm going out tonight," she said suddenly, not looking up from her phone. Her tone was casual, conversational, like she was commenting on the weather or mentioning she needed to pick up dry cleaning. Like this was a perfectly normal thing to announce to your husband over morning coffee without any further context or explanation. "Okay," I said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs, hers with cream and 2 sugars, mine black because I'd learned to drink it that way in architecture school during too many all-nighters and had never bothered to go back to adding things. "Where are you going?" "Out." She finally looked up from her phone, and there was something in her expression I couldn't quite read. Anticipation, maybe, or challenge, or satisfaction, like she'd been planning this moment and was pleased with herself for executing it. With someone who actually excites me, someone who makes me feel alive, someone who understands passion and adventure and taking risks, someone who isn't you. I set her coffee mug down in front of her carefully, precisely, the way I'd learned to do everything around Vanessa, with deliberate calm, with controlled movements, with no visible reaction that she could seize on and weaponize. Even though I felt something shift inside me with those words, something fundamental cracking and settling into a new configuration that I couldn't quite name yet, but that felt significant, irreversible. "All right," I said, keeping my voice neutral and even. "Have fun. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from." She stared at me, her coffee mug halfway to her lips, her eyes searching my face for something she apparently didn't find. Her smile, the bright, performative one she'd been wearing when she said it, faltered slightly at the edges, developed small cracks in its perfect surface, like she'd been expecting a completely different reaction and wasn't quite sure what to do now that she hadn't gotten it. "That's it?" she said, and there was an edge to her voice now, something sharp and frustrated. "That's all you have to say? I just told you I'm going out with someone who excites me, someone who isn't you, someone who makes me feel things you've never made me feel, and you're just fine with that? What else would you like me to say?" "I don't know. Maybe show some emotion. Maybe ask who it is. Maybe care that your wife is telling you she's interested in someone else. Maybe react like a normal human being instead of like some robot who just processes information without actually feeling anything." I took a sip of my coffee. It was good coffee, bright and complex, with notes of citrus and chocolate, worth every penny of the $18, even if Vanessa would never admit it. Worth the effort of getting up early to make it properly. Worth doing well, even if it wasn't appreciated. "If you want to go out, go out. I'm not going to stop you." "Jesus Christ, Daniel." She pushed back from the table with enough force that her chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. I'd refinished myself last summer while she'd been at a wellness retreat in Arizona. "Do you even care about anything anymore? Do you feel anything at all? Or have you just completely checked out of this marriage while physically still being here?" I looked at her, really looked at her for maybe the first time in months, instead of just glancing in her direction and registering her presence the way you register furniture or appliances. Vanessa, at 32, was objectively beautiful in the way that came from good genetics, expensive maintenance, and careful curation. Long, dark hair that she got cut and colored every 6 weeks at a salon that charged $300 per appointment. Green eyes that she knew how to line and shadow to maximum effect. High cheekbones, full lips. The kind of face that turned heads when she walked into rooms, that made waiters and baristas and store clerks immediately attentive, that had probably made her whole life easier in ways she'd never had to think about. She'd been stunning when we met 5 years ago at our mutual friend Rebecca's birthday party. I'd been 29, a junior architect at a mid-sized firm making decent money, but not spectacular money. Wearing clothes from department stores and driving a sensible used car, already settling into the comfortable, predictable life that Vanessa would spend the next 5 years resenting me for. She'd been 27, working in marketing for a startup that seemed perpetually on the verge of either massive success or spectacular failure, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, surrounded by friends who all looked like they'd stepped out of an Instagram lifestyle blog about living your best life in your 20s. We'd connected at that party somehow. Talked for hours about art and travel and books we'd read and dreams we wanted to chase. She'd told me about wanting to start her own marketing consultancy, about traveling to Italy and Greece and Portugal, about living a life that was full and vibrant and extraordinary. I'd told her about designing houses that would become homes for families, about creating spaces that would hold people's most important moments, about finding meaning in work that served others. She'd seemed charmed by that at the time, told me it was refreshing to meet someone who cared about purpose over profit, told me she was tired of dating men who only cared about their bank accounts and their career advancement, told me she wanted something real, something authentic, something that mattered. We'd gotten married after a year of dating that had felt easy and natural and right. Bought a house after another year. This house, the one I'd found, and she'd transformed with expensive renovations and carefully chosen furniture and decor that looked perfect in photos, even if it wasn't particularly comfortable to actually live with. And somewhere in that 3rd year of marriage, something had changed. Or maybe nothing had changed. Maybe she'd always been this person, and I'd just been too infatuated to notice. Maybe I'd always been too boring for her, and she'd just hidden it better in the beginning when love or lust or the novelty of being married had masked the fundamental incompatibility. "I care," I said quietly. "I've always cared. But I'm tired, Vanessa. I'm tired of trying to be exciting enough for you. I'm tired of feeling like I'm constantly failing some test I didn't know I was taking. So if you want to go out with someone who excites you, I genuinely hope you have a good time." She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "You're not even going to ask who it is? Does it matter?" "Yes, of course it matters. I'm telling you I'm interested in someone else, and you're acting like I just told you I'm going to the grocery store. What do you want me to do, Vanessa? Get angry? Yell? Beg you not to go? Would that make you feel better about whatever you're doing?" "I want you to care." Her voice had risen to a pitch that suggested she was genuinely upset, though whether it was because I wasn't reacting the way she wanted, or because she'd finally pushed far enough that I'd stopped trying to fix things, I couldn't tell. "I want you to fight for this marriage. Fight for me. Show some emotion for once in your life, instead of just accepting everything with that calm, reasonable, utterly infuriating Daniel neutrality." "I fought for 3 years," I said, and my voice was still calm, but there was something underneath it now, something cold and final. "I fought through every criticism about my job not being impressive enough, my salary not being high enough, my ambitions not being grand enough. I fought through you comparing me to your friends' husbands, to your ex-boyfriends, to every man you passed on the street who had something I didn't. I fought through you telling me I was boring, predictable, not adventurous enough, not romantic enough, not exciting enough. I'm done fighting, Vanessa. If you want excitement, go find it. I'm not stopping you." She grabbed her coffee mug and her phone and walked out of the kitchen without another word. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door close with more force than necessary, then silence. I finished my coffee standing at the counter, looking out the kitchen window at our backyard, the grass I mowed every weekend, the garden beds I'd planted last spring that Vanessa had never shown any interest in, the patio furniture she'd insisted we buy because her friend Michelle had the same set, and it had looked so cute in Michelle's Instagram photos. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa, sent from upstairs rather than her coming back down to say it to my face. "Don't wait up tonight. You wouldn't understand the energy anyway." I read it twice. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in months, a name that represented the one person in Vanessa's life she actually seemed to respect. Or maybe fear was a better word. Her older sister, Caroline. I hesitated for only a moment before pressing call. She answered on the third ring. "Daniel, this is a surprise. Is everything okay? Caroline, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Always." "How bad is it? The way she talks about me? The things she says when I'm not around? I need to know." There was a long pause. Then, "Pretty bad, Daniel. I've tried to tell her she's being unreasonable, that she's sabotaging a good thing, but she doesn't listen to me anymore. Maybe she never did. She told me this morning she's going out tonight with someone who actually excites her." Jesus, she really said that? Word for word. Another pause. "And what did you say?" "I told her to have fun." Caroline laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Good for you. She's been pushing you to react, to give her ammunition to paint you as controlling or jealous or unstable. The fact that you didn't take the bait probably drove her crazy." "Caroline, I need a favor, a big one. And I know it's putting you in a difficult position with your sister, but if you're asking what I think you're asking, the answer is yes. You don't even know what I'm asking yet. You want me to come to dinner tonight. You want her to come home and see that you're not sitting here pathetically waiting for her. You want to show her that you have options, that you have support, that you're not as powerless as she thinks you are. Am I close?" "Eerily close." "Then yes, absolutely yes. I told you 2 years ago at Christmas that she was treating you terribly and you needed to stop letting her walk all over you. Maybe tonight she'll finally understand there are consequences to treating people like they don't matter." "What time?" 7? I'll be there at 6:30. And Daniel? I'm bringing wine. Good wine. the kind she pretends to appreciate but can't actually tell from the cheap stuff. Thank you, Caroline. Don't thank me yet. This is probably going to blow up spectacularly, but sometimes things need to blow up before they can get better. I'll see you tonight. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen holding my phone, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not quite hope, but maybe the beginning of something like dignity. I left for work at 8:30, same as always. Vanessa was still upstairs, presumably getting ready for whatever she had planned for her day. We didn't say goodbye. We hadn't said goodbye in the morning for months. Work was its usual mix of meetings and design reviews and client calls. I was an architect at a mid-sized firm specializing in residential projects. Nothing flashy or glamorous, not the kind of work that got featured in magazines or won awards, but solid, meaningful work that helped people create homes they loved. Vanessa had spent 3 years telling me I should have gone into commercial development, that residential architecture was small time, that I was wasting my talent on suburban families who wanted generic McMansions. But I liked residential work. I liked meeting with couples and families, listening to what they needed, designing spaces that would hold their lives. I liked that a house I designed might be where someone's kids grew up, where they celebrated holidays, where they built memories that would last generations. Vanessa thought that made me small-minded, that I lacked ambition, that I was satisfied with mediocrity. Maybe she was right, or maybe we just valued different things. I left work at 5, stopped at the grocery store on the way home. Caroline had said she'd bring wine, but I wanted to make sure we had good food. I picked up ingredients for a simple but elegant dinner: pasta with fresh vegetables and herbs, crusty bread from the bakery section, a salad with good olive oil and balsamic. The kind of meal Vanessa used to say she enjoyed before she decided that enjoying anything I did was beneath her. At home, I set the table in the dining room, the formal dining room we almost never used because Vanessa said it felt too stuffy to eat in there regularly. I put out the good plates, the wedding china we'd received 5 years ago, and had probably used a dozen times total. Cloth napkins, wine glasses, candles. I wasn't trying to be romantic. I was trying to make a point, that I could create something nice, something worth experiencing, whether Vanessa was there to appreciate it or not. Caroline arrived at 6:25, 10 minutes earlier than she'd said. She was carrying 2 bottles of wine and wearing an expression that was equal parts concerned and grimly amused. "You actually did it," she said, setting the wine on the counter and looking around at the set table, the candles I hadn't lit yet, the smell of garlic and herbs coming from the kitchen. "You're actually going through with this." Should I not be? No, you absolutely should. I'm just surprised, proud, but surprised. You've been so patient with her for so long that I wasn't sure you had it in you to make a stand. I'm not making a stand. I'm just existing on my own terms for one evening. That's called making a stand, Daniel. She opened one of the wine bottles, something Italian and expensive looking that probably cost 3 times what I usually spent on wine. When someone spends years trying to make you feel small, choosing not to feel small anymore is absolutely making a stand. We cooked together, Caroline helping with the salad while I finished the pasta. It was easy, comfortable, the way cooking with Vanessa never was because she always had opinions about how I was doing things wrong. Too much salt or not enough garlic, or why was I using that pan when the other one would work better? Caroline just worked alongside me, occasionally asking where things were but mostly moving through my kitchen with surprising familiarity. "I should have checked in more," she said as we were draining the pasta. "After I realized how bad things had gotten between you two. I should have called more, visited more, made it clear that I didn't think her behavior was acceptable. You're her sister. That puts you in an impossible position. Impossible positions are still positions. You can choose how you navigate them." She tasted the pasta sauce, nodded with approval. "This is good, by the way. Better than anything I've seen her post on Instagram about dinners out with friends at expensive restaurants. She goes out a lot. I know. She posts about it constantly, always at trendy places, always with people who look impressive in photos, always with captions about living her best life or grateful for amazing friends. It's exhausting to watch. Do you know who she's going out with tonight? Caroline set down her wine glass. Honestly, I don't think there is anyone. I think she's testing you, trying to provoke a reaction, trying to create drama so she can frame you as the problem in the marriage. Why would she do that? Because she's bored and miserable and doesn't know how to take responsibility for her own feelings? Because it's easier to blame you for not being exciting enough than to admit she doesn't know what would actually make her happy? Because she's my sister, and I love her, but she can also be incredibly cruel when she feels like she's losing control of a situation. We carried food to the dining room table. I lit the candles. Caroline poured wine into crystal glasses I'd forgotten we owned. What time does she usually come home? Caroline asked. I honestly don't know. She started going out more about a year ago. Sometimes she's home by 9, sometimes it's past midnight. She doesn't tell me her plans anymore. Well, based on the text you said she sent, I'm guessing she's planning a late entrance. Maximum drama. She'll want you to have spent the evening alone and anxious, imagining her with someone else, walking in to find me here instead. Caroline smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. That's going to throw her off balance. Good. We ate slowly, talking about everything except Vanessa. Caroline told me about her work. She was a senior attorney at a corporate law firm, specialized in contract negotiation, made probably 3 times what I made, and had never once made me feel small about the disparity. She told me about her recent vacation to Portugal, about the book she was reading, about her friend's new baby. I told her about the house I was designing for a young couple with twins, about the challenge of creating enough storage and enough private space in a modest budget, about the satisfaction of solving problems that mattered to real people. You love your work, Caroline observed. That's rare. Most people I know, including my sister, are constantly talking about how they'd quit their jobs if they won the lottery. You'd probably keep doing this even if you didn't need the money. I probably would, I admitted. It feels purposeful, like I'm contributing something meaningful. Vanessa doesn't see it that way. Vanessa doesn't see a lot of things the way I do. That's been increasingly clear. What are you going to do? Caroline asked carefully. After tonight, after whatever happens when she gets home. I don't know yet, but I'm done pretending I can change her mind about me. I'm done trying to be exciting or adventurous or impressive enough. If she wants something different, she should go find it, and I should stop standing in her way while she punishes me for not being what she wants. Caroline reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You deserve better than this, Daniel. You deserve someone who sees how good you are. So does she. Maybe that's the problem. We both deserve better, just not from each other. At 8:45, we heard a car door close outside, then footsteps on the front walk, then the jingle of keys. Caroline checked her watch. Right on schedule. Not too early, not too late. Just dramatic enough. I didn't say anything, just waited. The front door opened. I heard Vanessa before I saw her. Her laugh, the bright, performative one she used when she wanted people to think she was having the time of her life, echoing from the entryway into the house. She was talking to someone on the phone, her voice deliberately loud enough to carry through the rooms. Yeah, he won't do anything, he never does. That's kind of his whole thing, being completely non-reactive to everything. It's like living with a robot who occasionally sighs. Caroline's eyes met mine across the table. She raised one eyebrow slightly but said nothing. No, I'm serious, Vanessa continued, still in the entryway, still unaware that we could hear everything. I could probably walk in with another man and he'd just nod and ask if we wanted coffee. There's zero passion, zero fire, zero anything. It's like being married to beige wallpaper. The footsteps moved from the entryway toward the kitchen. I could picture her, still on her phone, probably checking her reflection in the hallway mirror, like she always did when she came home, making sure her hair and makeup still looked good, even though she'd been out for hours. Anyway, I should go. I need to see if he actually waited up, or if he just went to bed like usual. Either way, it'll be pathetic. Love you too. Talk tomorrow. The footsteps reached the kitchen doorway, stopped. From where Caroline and I sat in the dining room, we could see directly into the kitchen through the open archway. We could see Vanessa freeze in place, her phone still in her hand, her mouth slightly open in mid-word she'd been about to say. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, short, black, expensive-looking. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She looked like she'd been out somewhere impressive, somewhere that required that level of effort. Or she looked like someone who'd spent 3 hours getting ready to prove a point. Her eyes moved from me to Caroline, to the table set with candles and good dishes and wine glasses, to the empty plates that clearly showed we'd just finished dinner, to the comfortable, intimate way Caroline and I were sitting, relaxed and easy in each other's company. I watched the calculation happen on her face, the confusion, the realization, the sudden spike of something that might have been panic. Her keys slipped from her fingers and hit the hardwood floor with a crash that seemed unreasonably loud in the sudden silence. Caroline took a sip of her wine, completely calm. "Hi, Vanessa. Good night out?" Vanessa's mouth opened and closed twice before sound came out. "What are you doing here?" "Having dinner with your husband. He makes excellent pasta, by the way. You should try it sometime instead of always going out." "Daniel?" Vanessa's voice was higher than normal, tight with something I couldn't quite identify. "What is this? What's going on?" I stood up slowly, picking up my wine glass and Caroline's empty plate. "You said you were going out with someone who excites you, so I had dinner with someone whose company I enjoy. Seemed fair." "You're having dinner with my sister? Is that a problem?" "Yes, obviously it's a problem. What the hell are you trying to prove here?" "I'm not trying to prove anything. You went out. I stayed in. I invited someone over so I wouldn't be alone. That's all." "That's all?" Vanessa moved into the dining room now, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. "You expect me to believe that this," she gestured at the table, the candles, the wine, "is innocent? That you're just happening to have an intimate dinner with my sister on the same night I told you I was going out with someone else?" "Would you prefer I sat here alone feeling sorry for myself?" I asked. "Is that what you wanted? To come home and find me pathetic and anxious?" "I wanted you to care." Her voice was rising now, the careful composure she'd had when she walked in completely gone. "I wanted you to have some kind of emotional reaction to me going out with someone else." I did have a reaction. I decided to have a nice evening instead of a miserable one. By having dinner with my sister? By making it look like... She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "Like what, Vanessa?" Caroline's voice was quiet, but sharp. "Like he has people in his life who value him? Like he's capable of enjoying himself without you? Like he might not actually need you as much as you thought he did?" "Stay out of this, Caroline. This is between me and my husband. You made it my business when you've spent the past 2 years telling me how boring and disappointing your husband is, when you've mocked him to our entire family, when you've treated him like an accessory you're embarrassed to be seen with." Caroline stood up now too, and something in her posture made Vanessa take a half step back. "I came to dinner tonight because Daniel is my friend, because he's been a good husband to you and you've been terrible to him, and because I wanted him to know that at least one person in your family can see what you're doing." "What I'm doing? What about what he's doing? Having secret dinners with my sister? It's not secret. We're literally sitting in your dining room with the lights on. We weren't hiding. You know what I mean?" "No, I don't." Caroline picked up her wine glass and moved toward the kitchen. "Explain to me exactly what you think is happening here that's so terrible. Be specific." Vanessa looked between us, her face flushing red. You're turning him against me. You're poisoning him with your opinions about our marriage. Daniel doesn't need me to form opinions about your marriage. He's been living it. He knows exactly how you treat him. How I treat him? I've been nothing but patient with his mediocrity. I've stood by him while he stagnates in his boring job with his boring salary and his complete lack of ambition. You told him this morning you were going out with someone who actually excites you, Caroline said flatly. That's not patience. That's cruelty. It's the truth. He doesn't excite me. He never has. He's comfortable and predictable and safe, and it's suffocating. The words hung in the air. I felt something inside me go very quiet and very still. Okay, I said. Vanessa turned to me. Okay? That's it? Just okay? You're right. I am comfortable and predictable and safe, and you're bored and restless and constantly looking for something more exciting. Those are fundamentally incompatible ways of being. So, okay, I accept that. What does that mean? It means I'm done trying to be something I'm not, and you should probably stop pretending you want to be married to who I am. Are you... Her voice caught. Are you asking me for a divorce? I'm saying that we're both miserable. We have been for a long time. And tonight made me realize that I'm tired of being made to feel like I'm failing because I'm not enough for you. This is because of her, isn't it? Vanessa pointed at Caroline. She got in your head. She made you think you deserve better than me. He does deserve better than you, Caroline said quietly. And you deserve better than a marriage where you feel trapped. But you don't get to treat him like garbage just because you're unhappy. Get out! Vanessa! Get out of my house, both of you. This is my house, and you don't get to come here and conspire against me and make me feel like I'm the villain in my own marriage. It's Daniel's house, too, Caroline pointed out. He lives here. He pays half the mortgage. You don't get to throw him out. Then I'll leave. Vanessa grabbed her purse from the counter where she'd dropped it. I'll go stay with Mom and Dad. I'll let you two have your cozy little dinner party, but don't think this is over. Don't think you get to humiliate me and get away with it. Nobody humiliated you, I said. You humiliated yourself by coming home and making assumptions, by freaking out about something innocent, by showing exactly what you think of me and of our marriage. I want a divorce, she said, and her voice was shaking now, whether with anger or fear, I couldn't tell. If you're so tired of being married to me, if I'm so terrible, then fine. Let's end this. Let's both move on and find people who actually appreciate us. Okay, I said again. She stared at me like she'd expected me to argue, to beg, to suddenly fight for the marriage I'd stopped fighting for months ago. Okay? That's all you have to say? I just asked for a divorce and you're saying okay? What do you want me to say, Vanessa? You're unhappy. I'm unhappy. You want excitement and passion and fire. I want peace and respect and partnership. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago, so, yeah, okay. Let's be honest about what this is and move forward. I can't believe this. She was crying now, angry tears that made her mascara run. I can't believe you're giving up this easily. 3 years of marriage, and you're just okay with ending it? 3 years of being told I'm not enough, I corrected gently. 3 years of being criticized and compared and found wanting. I'm not giving up easily, Vanessa. I'm accepting reality. She grabbed her keys from the floor where they'd fallen, fumbled with her phone, wiped at her eyes angrily. Fine. I'll call a lawyer on Monday. We'll figure out how to split everything, and you and my sister can congratulate yourselves on destroying my marriage. We didn't destroy your marriage, Caroline said. You did that on your own. Vanessa left without another word. We heard the front door slam, heard her car start, heard her pull out of the driveway too fast, tires squealing slightly on the pavement. Caroline and I stood in the kitchen in the sudden silence. Well, she said finally, that went exactly as horribly as I expected. I'm getting divorced. Looks like it. Because I had dinner with my sister-in-law. No, Caroline said firmly. You're getting divorced because your wife has been treating you terribly for years and you finally stopped accepting it. Tonight was just the catalyst, but this has been building for a long time. I nodded slowly. She was right. Tonight was just the moment when everything that had been true for months finally became undeniable. Thank you, I said, for coming, for supporting me, for not letting her make me feel like I was crazy for being hurt by how she treats me. You're not crazy. You're actually one of the most sane people I know, which is probably why being married to my sister was driving you insane. Despite everything, I laughed. Do you want more wine? God, yes. I feel like we're going to need it. We moved back to the dining room, and Caroline poured the rest of the expensive Italian wine into our glasses. What happens now? She asked. I don't know. I've never been divorced before. I imagine there's paperwork and lawyers and splitting up 5 years of accumulated stuff. It's going to be messy. Probably. But you'll get through it. And on the other side, you'll have your life back. Your actual life, not the performance of a life you've been doing to try to make her happy. I'm going to have to tell people, my parents, our friends, everyone who thought we were the perfect couple. Were you ever the perfect couple? Maybe in the beginning, or maybe I was just too infatuated to notice the warning signs. She always needed to be the center of attention, always needed validation, always needed to feel like she was winning at life. I thought that was just confidence. I didn't realize it meant everyone around her had to lose for her to feel like she was winning. That's surprisingly insightful. I've had a lot of time to think about it. Lots of nights lying awake while she was out living her best life, wondering what I was doing wrong. Eventually, I realized I wasn't doing anything wrong. We're just wrong for each other. We talked for another hour, finishing the wine, cleaning up the kitchen together, putting away the good dishes and blowing out the candles. Normal domestic tasks that felt surprisingly comforting after the chaos of Vanessa's reaction. At 11, Caroline said she should go. Are you going to be okay here alone tonight? She asked at the door. Yeah, I think I am. Call me if you need anything. Or if she comes back and starts more drama. I'm serious. Anytime. Any reason. Thank you, Caroline, for everything. She hugged me, a quick, sisterly hug that somehow meant more than any of the elaborate gestures Vanessa used to make when she was trying to prove to other people how much she loved me. After she left, I locked the door and turned off the lights downstairs. The house felt very quiet, very empty, but not lonely, just peaceful. I went upstairs to bed, and for the first time in months, I fell asleep easily. Vanessa didn't come home that night, or the next night, or the night after that. She texted me Monday morning. I've hired an attorney. You should do the same. We can do this civilly, or we can make it messy. Your choice. I didn't respond. I called a lawyer Caroline had recommended, a woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in family law and had a reputation for being thorough and fair without being aggressive. Your wife already contacted my office, Patricia told me at our first meeting, through her attorney. They're claiming irreconcilable differences, requesting an equitable division of assets, and asking for spousal support. Spousal support? She makes more than I do. I know. Her attorney is claiming emotional distress from the marriage. Apparently, she's framing the divorce as you being unfaithful with her sister. I had dinner with her sister, one time, fully clothed, in my own dining room. Nothing inappropriate happened. I believe you, but they're going to try to use it as leverage. Make you look bad so they can negotiate better terms. Patricia made a note on her legal pad. We'll need character witnesses, people who can speak to your behavior during the marriage, to your relationship with Caroline, to Vanessa's treatment of you. Caroline would testify. She will have to. Her being there that night makes her a central figure, but we'll need others too. Friends, colleagues, family members who've witnessed how Vanessa treats you. Over the next few weeks, I learned exactly how many people had noticed. My best friend Mike, who'd stopped inviting us to things because Vanessa always made sarcastic comments about his wife's cooking or his kids' behavior. My colleague Sarah, who'd witnessed Vanessa showing up at my office once and berating me loudly about forgetting some errand she'd wanted me to run. My parents, who'd grown increasingly uncomfortable with how Vanessa spoke to me at family gatherings. We didn't want to say anything, my mother told me on the phone, her voice heavy with guilt. We thought it wasn't our place to interfere in your marriage. But sweetie, she's been awful to you. We've been worried for years. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? You seemed so determined to make it work. She was right. I probably wouldn't have listened. I'd been so invested in the idea of our marriage, in the life we were supposed to be building together, that I'd ignored how unhappy I actually was. Vanessa moved back in with her parents. She posted on social media about going through a difficult time and having to make hard choices for my own well-being. Her friends commented with heart emojis and supportive messages about how strong she was. The narrative she was crafting was clear. She was the victim. I was the villain who'd hurt her so badly she had no choice but to leave. But then Caroline posted something. A single photo of the three of us at my parents' anniversary party 2 years ago. I was smiling genuinely. Vanessa was looking at her phone instead of the camera. Caroline was watching Vanessa with an expression that was hard to read. The caption was simple. Supporting people who've been there for me. That's what family does. It was subtle. It didn't name names or make accusations. But everyone who saw it understood what Caroline was saying. She was on my side. She'd chosen me over her sister. The social media response was immediate and divided. Some people praised Caroline for standing by me. Others accused her of betraying family loyalty. Vanessa's friends attacked Caroline viciously in the comments, called her disloyal, called her a homewrecker despite nothing remotely romantic having happened, called her manipulative for turning me against my own wife. Caroline deleted the post after 24 hours, but screenshots had been taken, shared, discussed. The narrative was no longer fully in Vanessa's control. 2 months after the dinner, we went to mediation. It was tense and awkward, both of us sitting on opposite sides of a conference table with our lawyers and a mediator, negotiating the dissolution of 5 years together like we were business partners dividing assets after a failed venture. Vanessa wanted the house. She claimed she decorated it, made it a home, invested emotional labor into every room. Never mind that I'd paid for most of the furniture, that I'd done most of the actual maintenance and repairs, that I was the one who'd planted the garden and painted the rooms and fixed everything that broke. You can have the house, I said, interrupting her lawyer mid-argument. I don't want it. Too many bad memories. Vanessa's face went through several expressions before settling on suspicious triumph. Really? Just like that? Just like that. You clearly want it more than I do. Take it. We divided everything else with surprising speed once I'd conceded the house. She got most of the furniture. I genuinely didn't care about it. I got the car that was fully paid off. She got the one with the loan she'd insisted we buy because it looked successful. We split our savings account 50-50. She dropped her request for spousal support after Patricia pointed out she made $15,000 more per year than I did. 4 months after the dinner, I signed the divorce papers. It was done. 5 years of marriage, 3 years of misery, ended with signatures and a judge's stamp. I moved into a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and quiet and mine. I didn't have much furniture yet, but I bought what I needed gradually, choosing things I actually liked rather than things that would look impressive to visitors. I set up my drafting table by the window where I got the best light. I hung art I'd bought at local galleries. I bought a comfortable reading chair and a good lamp. It was the opposite of the house I'd shared with Vanessa. Smaller, simpler, less expensive, but it felt more like home than anywhere I'd lived in years. Caroline helped me move in, showing up with her car full of kitchen supplies and bathroom towels, and all the practical things I'd forgotten I'd need. "You okay?" she asked as we were unpacking boxes. "Yeah, I really am." "No regrets? About the divorce?" "Not even a little. About the marriage in general?" "I regret not seeing sooner that we were wrong for each other. I regret wasting 3 years being miserable. But I don't regret that it's over." "Good. You deserve better than misery." "How's Vanessa taking it?" Caroline was quiet for a moment. "Not well. She's been calling me every few days, alternating between being furious that I took your side and being hurt that I abandoned her. I've tried to explain that I didn't take a side. I just refused to support how she was treating you. But she's not ready to hear that yet. I'm sorry I came between you two." "You didn't. She did that herself." Caroline handed me a stack of plates to put in the cabinet. "She's my sister and I love her. But loving someone doesn't mean accepting their bad behavior. Doesn't mean watching them hurt people and pretending it's fine. I hope someday she'll understand that." "What if she doesn't?" "Then that's her choice, but I'm not going to pretend you deserved how she treated you just to keep the peace." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Vanessa at a coffee shop. It was awkward and unexpected, both of us freezing when we saw each other, neither quite sure what the protocol was for encountering your ex-wife in public. "Hi," she said finally. "Hi. How are you?" "I'm good. You?" "I'm managing." She looked different, tired maybe, less carefully put together. "Can we talk, just for a minute?" We sat at a small table by the window. Vanessa ordered a latte. I got black coffee. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. "I was wrong," she said finally, her voice quiet and uncharacteristically uncertain, stripped of all the confidence and bravado I'd associated with her for 5 years. "About a lot of things. About you, about our marriage, about what I wanted from life, about who I thought I needed to be. I've been in therapy since the divorce, twice a week actually, because once wasn't enough to unpack everything, trying to figure out why I was so—" She paused, her fingers tracing the edge of her coffee cup in small, anxious circles. "So mean to you. That's what my therapist calls it. Mean. Which is such a simple, almost childish word for something that felt so complicated and layered and justified at the time. But she's right. I was mean. I was cruel. I took someone who loved me and cared about me and tried his best to make me happy, and I systematically tore him down because I was unhappy with myself and couldn't admit it." "Okay," I said, not sure what else to say, not sure what kind of response she was looking for or what I was supposed to do with this confession 6 months too late. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued quickly, like she needed to get all the words out before she lost her nerve, or before I interrupted, or before she talked herself out of saying what she'd come here to say. "I don't even know if I deserve forgiveness. I don't know if what I did is forgivable, honestly. The therapist says everyone deserves a chance to grow and change and make amends, but I'm not sure that means the people we hurt are obligated to accept those amends or to pretend the hurt didn't happen. But I wanted you to know, needed you to know, that I understand now that you weren't the problem in our marriage. I was. I was bored and restless and unhappy with myself, with my life, with the gap between who I thought I'd be at 32 and who I actually was. And I took all of that out on you because you were safe, because I knew you'd take it, because you were steady and reliable and always there, which meant I could chip away at you bit by bit without worrying that you'd leave. Until you did. Until I didn't take it anymore," I corrected gently. "Until you didn't," she agreed, and there was something in her expression that might have been respect or regret, or maybe just exhaustion from carrying this weight for months. That dinner with Caroline, it wasn't really about the dinner, was it? It wasn't about candles and wine and having an intimate evening with my sister. It was about you finally drawing a line in the sand, finally saying you weren't going to accept being treated that way anymore, Finally choosing yourself over trying to make me happy. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, she said, and her eyes were filling with tears now. Real tears, not the performative crying I'd seen her do so many times when she wanted sympathy or attention, or someone to reassure her that she was still good and worthy despite whatever she'd done wrong. For all of it. For wasting 3 years of your life with my cruelty. For making you feel small when you're actually one of the most remarkable people I've ever known. For not appreciating what I had until I lost it. For taking someone who showed up for me every day and treating him like he was defective because he wasn't whatever impossible fantasy I'd built up in my head of what a husband should be. I appreciate you saying that. I do. It means something that you've taken the time to think about this, to do the work in therapy, to recognize what happened. But Vanessa, we were wrong for each other from the start. Even if you'd treated me better, even if you'd never been mean, we still wanted fundamentally different things from life. You wanted excitement and spontaneity and constant stimulation and novelty. I wanted peace and stability and depth and meaning. Those aren't compatible ways of living. They're not wrong or right. They're just different. And trying to force them to coexist was making both of us miserable in different ways. I know. I'm starting to understand that. She took a sip of her latte, leaving a lipstick mark on the cup, a darker color than she used to wear, less carefully applied, like she'd stopped putting quite so much effort into her appearance lately. My therapist asked me to describe what excitement actually means to me, what I thought I was looking for. And you know what I realized? I couldn't really answer it. I just knew that whatever we had didn't feel exciting, and I blamed you for that, instead of examining why I felt like I needed excitement in the first place, why I couldn't appreciate stability and kindness and partnership, why I needed everything to feel intense all the time. What did you figure out? That I was chasing a feeling instead of building a life, that I wanted everything to feel like the beginning of a relationship when everything is new and uncertain, and your heart races every time you see the other person. But that's not sustainable. That's not what long-term partnership is about. And I couldn't accept that the excitement fading wasn't a failure of the relationship. It was a natural evolution into something deeper and more meaningful. But I didn't want deeper and more meaningful. I wanted that constant rush. And when you couldn't provide it anymore, when no one could provide it anymore because it's literally impossible, I blamed you instead of accepting that I was asking for something that doesn't exist. I didn't say anything for a moment, processing this unexpected level of self-awareness from someone who'd spent years deflecting any kind of self-examination. Are you dating anyone? She asked finally, changing the subject abruptly, like she'd shared all she could bear to share and needed to move on to safer territory. Not yet. I'm focusing on myself for a while. Figuring out who I am without being married, without being in a relationship that required me to constantly defend my choices and prove my worth. Figuring out what I actually want from life, instead of just trying to be what someone else wants me to be. That's probably smart. That's probably what I should do too, but I'm not very good at being alone. I've already started seeing someone new, that guy I mentioned who provides excitement. Except I'm already noticing patterns, already finding things about him that annoy me, already feeling restless, already wanting more. My therapist says I'm going to keep repeating these cycles until I actually deal with whatever is driving them. But knowing that intellectually and actually doing the work to change are two very different things. You'll figure it out eventually, or you won't. Either way, that's your journey now, not mine. You were always enough, Daniel. I need you to know that. I couldn't see it at the time, but you were always exactly enough. The problem was never you. It was always me. We talked for a few more minutes after that. Nothing profound, just small talk about work and mutual friends we'd both lost touch with, and how her parents were handling the divorce, and whether I'd heard that Rebecca was pregnant. Surface-level conversation that felt strangely comfortable despite everything that had passed between us. Proof, maybe, that we could exist in the same space without animosity, even if we'd never be close again, even if we'd never be anything more than people who used to know each other well, and now we're just cordial strangers sharing coffee. When we parted ways in the parking lot, Vanessa paused before getting into her car. A new one, I noticed. Something sleek and expensive looking that she probably couldn't quite afford, but had bought anyway because image still mattered to her even after everything. "I hope you find someone who appreciates you," she said. "Someone who sees how good you are. Someone who doesn't need you to be more exciting or more adventurous or more anything. Someone who just values you for exactly who you are." "I hope you find peace," I said, and I meant it. Real peace. Not just the next exciting thing, but actual contentment with who you are and what you have. She nodded, got in her car, and drove away. And I stood there in the coffee shop parking lot, feeling something I hadn't expected to feel. Closure. Not forgiveness exactly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But an understanding that we'd both played parts in the failure of our marriage, that we'd both made mistakes and suffered consequences, that we'd both learned something even if the lessons had been painful and expensive and taken longer than they should have. An acceptance that this chapter was truly closed, that we'd both move forward from here in our separate directions, that whatever had existed between us was well and truly over in a way that finally felt complete. A year after the divorce, I was sitting in my apartment working on designs for a new house, a young couple's first home, modest budget but big dreams, when Caroline called. "Are you free for dinner tonight?" "Sure." "What's the occasion?" "No occasion. I just want to check in. Make sure you're doing okay. Make sure you're actually eating real food and not just surviving on takeout." "I cook sometimes." "Frozen pizza doesn't count as cooking." I met her at a restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood Italian place with good food and a relaxed atmosphere. We ordered wine and pasta and talked about work and life and everything except Vanessa. "How are you really doing?" Caroline asked over dessert. "I'm good, really good actually. Better than I've been in years." "You look better, less stressed, less tired." "I feel better. Lighter, somehow. Like I was carrying something heavy for so long that I forgot what it felt like to not be weighed down." That's exactly what it was like. Watching you during those last years with Vanessa, it was like watching someone slowly disappear. You got quieter, more withdrawn, less yourself. It was painful to see. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" "I tried. At Christmas 2 years ago, remember? I told you she was treating you terribly, but you weren't ready to hear it yet. You still thought you could fix things, make her happy, be enough. I wasted a lot of time on that. You learned what you needed to learn. Sometimes that takes time." "How is she, Vanessa?" "She's figuring things out, still in therapy, dating someone new, a guy who apparently provides the excitement she was looking for. I hope it works out for her. I hope she's learned something from all this." "Me too." "What about you? Are you seeing anyone?" "Actually, yeah. Kind of. There's a woman I met at a community design workshop. She's a landscape architect. We've been getting coffee, talking about potential collaborations. It's early days, nothing serious yet, but I like her. She's calm and thoughtful and passionate about her work. She reminds me that there are people who value the same things I do." Caroline smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. "Good. You deserve someone who sees how good you are. Someone told me that once, in my kitchen, right before my marriage imploded. I stand by it, and I'm glad you finally believe it too." We finished dinner and walked back to our cars together. The night was cool and clear, the city lights bright against the dark sky. "Thank you," I said as we reached Caroline's car, "for that dinner a year ago, for being honest about what was happening, for supporting me even though it meant going against your sister. It mattered more than you know." "Your family too," Caroline said simply. "And you were the one being hurt. Of course I supported you. Still, thank you." I drove home to my small apartment, thinking about the past year. about the divorce and the pain and the slow process of rebuilding my life on my own terms, about Caroline's friendship and my new apartment and the woman I was getting to know, about the work I loved and the peace I'd found. Vanessa had wanted excitement. She'd gone out looking for someone who could provide that. And in doing so, she'd pushed me to finally prioritize what I wanted: respect, partnership, peace. That dinner, that one dinner that had seemed so dramatic at the time, had been the beginning of my actual life. The life where I wasn't constantly trying to be more, do more, prove more. The life where being calm and steady and reliable were virtues rather than failures. The life where I was enough, exactly as I was. Vanessa had come home that night and dropped her keys in shock at finding me having dinner with her sister. She'd seen it as betrayal, as manipulation, as proof I was the villain she needed me to be. But really, it had just been a man choosing to have a nice evening, choosing not to sit alone and miserable, choosing himself, and that choice had changed everything. 6 months after that dinner with Caroline, I was walking through a botanical garden with Sarah, the landscape architect who'd become more than just a coffee date, who'd become someone I looked forward to seeing, someone whose company I genuinely enjoyed without anxiety or performance. We were looking at native plant gardens she was considering for a project, but really we were just enjoying being together, walking slowly through the paths, pointing out interesting specimens, talking about work and life and everything in between. "You're different than I expected," she said, as we paused by a bed of ornamental grasses that caught the afternoon light beautifully. "Different how?" "When you first told me you'd been recently divorced, I expected, I don't know, baggage, bitterness, someone still wounded and defensive, but you're just peaceful, content, like someone who went through something hard and came out better for it." I think I did come out better for it. It took me a while to see it that way, but the divorce was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. It forced me to examine who I was and what I wanted instead of just trying to be whatever someone else needed me to be. "What did you figure out about what you wanted?" "That I wanted exactly what I have now: simple life, meaningful work, genuine connections with people who value me as I am. Peace instead of drama, depth instead of excitement for excitement's sake, partnership instead of performance." She smiled, reaching for my hand as we walked. "I like that. I like you. I like you too." It was simple and honest and exactly what I needed. No games, no tests, no constant wondering if I was enough or if I needed to be more. Just two people who enjoyed each other and were seeing where that might lead. Later that evening, back in my apartment, I found myself thinking about Vanessa again, not with bitterness or regret, but with a kind of grateful understanding. She'd been wrong for me and I'd been wrong for her, and we'd spent too long trying to force something that was never going to work. But in doing so, we'd both learned essential lessons about ourselves. She was learning, slowly, painfully, through therapy and failed relationships and hard self-examination, that the excitement she'd been chasing was never going to fill whatever void she'd been trying to fill. That constant stimulation couldn't replace genuine connection. That novelty couldn't substitute for depth. And I'd learned that I didn't need to apologize for wanting peace, for valuing stability and kindness and partnership over drama and excitement and intensity, for being exactly who I was instead of performing a version of myself that seemed more impressive. That dinner a year and a half ago, the dinner that had ended my marriage, had been about choosing myself after years of choosing to diminish myself to try to make someone else comfortable. It hadn't been planned as some dramatic statement or revenge. It had just been a man deciding he deserved a nice evening, even when his wife was out proving she didn't value him. Caroline showing up had been support, not seduction. The candles and wine had been about self-respect, not manipulation. The whole evening had been about refusing to sit alone and miserable when I could choose something better. Vanessa had seen betrayal, because that's what she'd been looking for. Evidence that I was the villain, that she was justified in her discontent, that her cruelty had been somehow earned or reasonable. She'd needed me to be wrong so she could be right. But I hadn't been wrong. I'd just been different than what she wanted. And those weren't the same thing. Now, sitting in my apartment with the city lights visible through my window, with plans to see Sarah again tomorrow, with work I loved and a life I'd built deliberately rather than defaulting into, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not perfect. I still had bad days, still worried about things, still had moments of doubt. But complete in myself, not needing external validation to feel worthwhile, not needing someone else to excite me, because I was content with who I was. Vanessa had wanted someone who excited her. She'd gone looking for that, convinced it was what she needed, convinced I was failing her by not providing it. What she'd actually needed was to learn to excite herself, to find fulfillment from within, rather than expecting other people to constantly entertain her, to build a life rather than chase a feeling. Whether she'd ever learn that lesson, I didn't know. But it wasn't my job to teach her anymore. It wasn't my responsibility to save her from herself, or to diminish myself to make her feel better. My job now was just to live well, to be happy, to show up for the people who showed up for me, to do meaningful work and build genuine connections and appreciate the peace I'd fought so hard to find. And to remember that the day I'd chosen to have dinner with Caroline, instead of sitting alone waiting for a wife who didn't value me, that had been the day I'd chosen myself, and everything good in my life now had grown from that single choice.